G'day guys, X2KO here with a review of the affordable curved screen monitor known as the Samsung S24E510C, which I'll be referring to as the E510. Now not only does this screen feature a curve, but it also promises some excellent black levels and contrast, because unlike all the other Samsung monitors that I've reviewed, this one doesn't use a PLS panel. Instead it uses a VA or vertical alignment panel. Now we'll look at the advantages and disadvantages of VA panels in a moment, but first let's talk about that curve. Initially I was skeptical on how the curve would look. On something like an 80-inch big screen TV, a curve can be quite captivating and immersive, and I wasn't sure if the same experience would translate to a smaller screen. The E510 has a very subtle 4000R curvature. You may not even notice it at first, but after using it for a couple of weeks I'm pleasantly surprised. The curve actually feels natural. Now Samsung market this as being something similar to reading a newspaper, allowing our eyes to be more equally distanced from the entire screen surface. And for me, going back to a non-curved screen feels a little bit odd, because there is something special about a curve that makes things feel more organic. Going over the specs, as mentioned earlier, we have a VA panel measuring in at 23.5 inches with a 60Hz refresh rate, 4 millisecond pixel response times, 3000:1 contrast ratio, 178 degree viewing angles and 250 candelas per square meters of brightness. It also has a VGA input, an HDMI input and a 3.5mm audio out jack. It is PWM flicker free and features a game mode which boosts brightness, an eye saver mode to reduce eye strain along with some other presets. Now on paper it looks to be identical with the PLS screens seen on many of Samsung's other monitors. However, specs don't always tell the full story, because VA panels offer some distinct advantages and disadvantages over other screen technologies. A notable advantage seen on the E510 is the black levels and contrast. VA panels typically offer some deep black levels, and this monitor delivers just that, with the deepest black levels and contrast on any monitor I've tested so far. The excellent contrast also means we can clearly differentiate between dark tones, something that PLS screens have a little bit of difficulty with. You can't see it in the video as the camera doesn't quite pick it up, but to the naked eye I can clearly differentiate between the 0% and 3% tones on the E510, which I couldn't do on the E390 and its PLS panel. Another advantage is the low backlight bleeding. Now some people find the backlight bleeding on Samsung's PLS screens to be annoying to the point of wanting to return them, and I'm happy to report that the E510 has very low levels of backlight bleed by comparison. In this shot here, for example, you should be able to see the white bar on the E390 causing the rest of the screen to glow, while on the E510 it remains pretty dark. On the flip side, one of the negatives of VA panels is colour shifting. Although the viewing angles are rated at 178 degrees and the screen is still readable at extreme angles, there is noticeable colour shifting when compared to IPS or PLS panels, so may not be as suitable for those needing to do colour accurate work. But as most people tend to use their screens when sitting directly in front, it shouldn't pose too much of an issue for the majority of users, and the viewing angles are still way better to what is seen on any TN panel. On default settings, colour isn't quite as punchy or saturated as an IPS or PLS screen, but in certain scenes it does tend to look more natural, and depending on your preferences you can always adjust this in the settings. In terms of performance, this monitor is on par with most other screens in its price range. VA panels can sometimes exhibit ghosting or motion blur, but the E510 didn't have any such issues. Input lag is low, and the excellent contrast should make picking out things in dark shadowy areas easier, so could make a decent monitor for those of you who are casual gamers. Moving on to styling, the T-shaped stand is noticeably curved to try and emphasise the curvature of the screen, and it does so with limited success. Some people noticed the curve straight away, while others didn't notice it at all, so just keep in mind that the curve is quite subtle. The stand itself is more rigid and stable when compared to Samsung's other offerings, but still not quite as stable as some of the better stands out there. Adjustability is limited to a range of about 22 degrees worth of tilt, with no height adjustability, and there is no cable management either. Thankfully though, Samsung has included VESA mounting holes, something that they've neglected to include on many of their other monitors, so thumbs up to Samsung for including it here. The monitor features black plastic with a beautiful semi-gloss brushed metallic finish on almost every surface, including the front bezel, which measures in at 12mm. Overall, the monitor looks elegant, and the metallic finish means it isn't a fingerprint and dust magnet, except for the outer bezel rim, which is finished in glossy black. Along the bottom of the screen you'll notice 2 speaker grills, but there aren't actually any speakers there. Now I'm guessing Samsung are using a standard shell that is pre-configured for different models. Samsung have once again opted to use the joystick mounted on the back to navigate the on-screen menu, and I'm a big fan of this system as it is one of the most intuitive controls I've ever used, and the on-screen menu is equally easy to follow. Anyway guys, let's sum this up. The screen does most things right, it looks stylish, has an easy to navigate menu system, a stable stand and VESA mounting options. The VA panel combines excellent black levels and contrast with very low levels of bleed. Colours tend to be natural, but the colour shifting issue may annoy some users. The curved screen is subtle yet sufficient enough to provide a sense of immersion and would also suit those wanting a triple screen setup, as curved screens would make it easier to sort of wrap the screens around you. And if you needed to buy 3 of them, well, this is one of the most affordable options. Anyway guys, that's the end of my review. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any questions, feel free to drop me a line in the comments below. Hey, thanks for watching. Cheers.